with boxing. So I want to start, obviously, the big announcement, the AJ Fury undisputed fight. Just want to hear your thoughts on the announcement.
Massive, mate. Like, just really happy as well. It's been announced after all this time. Like, we've been waiting for it really since Fury beat Wilder, and obviously 2020, obviously for obvious reasons, was a fights happened, but obviously we were expecting maybe a third fight with Wilder with Fury. Obviously that obviously didn't happen. Finally, now it just didn't seem that it was going to happen for a few months. Obviously, the start of this year, it's been all about this talk, and it was just maybe it won't happen because of all the. Obviously, Fury wants to fight in Vegas. We don't actually know the location yet, which is still.
I think it'd be like Middle East. Either way, I think this is the biggest boxing fight of all time, in my opinion. And I think like there's no really winner or loser in this fight. I think this fight, particularly for the British fans, is for the fans. Like for us Brits to have two of the best heavyweights in the world fighting for all the marbles, most prestigious crown in boxing. I think it's great. Although like it won't be in our country, the first fight. So hopefully this is a rematch, Wembley, 90,000, get that packed out. And as you said, there was loads of talks. I personally thought the fight was gone when AJ got beat off the ways. That's when I thought the fight was gone. And then, but luckily, AJ's came back, could put two really good performances. I was really impressed with the Puella fight, to be fair. I know Puella's a tough fight. And obviously Tyson, and obviously Tyson put in that performance against Wilder in February of 2020. That's the greatest performance I've ever seen by any boxer. No one's done that to Wilder.
It would have
take him out like that.
I know it was all said last year, and obviously we're doing our podcast now a year after that's happened. But the way he went in that fight, and he went in against the most dangerous boxer in the world, and everyone said, is he gonna? No one would have thought he would have beat him like that. Just went through him, showed no fear, and everyone was thinking, oh well, he might. I honestly thought going into that rematch with Wilder, try to see him tax this as his first one, and I honestly thought going into that fight Wilder would knock him out. And once again,
I agree.
Once again, he shocked the world, and
you've got to give it to Sugar Hill Leonard. I think they're changing the trainer, whereas he was with Ben Davis in the previous fight, and he was watching back that previous fight. I watched it this week, and he did have Wilder hurt on numerous occasions. He just didn't push and put the foot down. He didn't capitalise on that. But definitely in that fight, he marched forward. But I remember watching it, and I was thinking, what's he doing? I was thinking, he's got to be. And then when he hurt him, I thought, mate, it's proved to show, with Deontay Wilder, he has got that equaliser, that big punch. But if you put him on his back foot, there's not much he can do. And I think now Tyson Fury set that blueprint out to beat Deontay Wilder. I don't really think Wilder's going to come back from that. I think Fury's took his soul and type way.
The way he's gone on about. It's a shame as well because I really respected Wilder. I thought I didn't. Obviously, his opponents have been questionable in his career. Yeah. What he does boxing for, he fights for his daughter, who's I think got some kind of learning disability. Fights for her. And I think he's a respectable guy. But after the way he's gone on about it, saying his gloves had weights in, whatever, I can't even remember. He's just the way he came out after it was.
He should have handled that loss better.
It was a joke, to be honest.
And now look on the other. When AJ got beat off Louise, he handled it so well. They were asking him, was there something wrong? He says, no, just the better man bet him on the night. And that was, personally, I thought it was a fluke, but in the end, it is the better man. Ruiz was the better man on that night. And as was Wilder, as was Fury in both the fights, to be fair, I think was that draw, the first fight, is the most biggest robbery I've ever seen in my life. It was disgusting.
Oh, well, did Wilder even win the 12th round?
Exactly.
But
that's what I'm saying.
Who do you think wins then? Joshua Fury? I
think the fight's going. I don't think Fury's going to fight AJ the way he fought Wilder. Because I think you've got to approach AJ differently. I think you've got to. I think if you fight the same way he did against Wilder, I think he'll get caught. But I don't think he has the power to knock out AJ either.
I honestly think Fury goes through Joshua inside 5 rounds. the way he
The
beat Wilder.
It's a big statement.
I reckon, honestly, the way, and I'm not saying for 1 minute I dislike either fighter. I love both fighters. I think what Joshua's done for boxing, he's a great role model.
Olympic champion as well.
Exactly. I just think he's very hittable. He gets tired in between rounds, and against Fury,
you can't. You've got to be focused against Fury. On point.
That second Wilder fight shows that, because Fury was a man who would go in and he'd box phenomenally, and he'd probably get a late stoppage or win on points. That Wilder fight shows to everyone, changing his trainer up, that against Joshua, he'll just go through him, in my opinion. And I'm not saying for 1 minute that Joshua isn't. I think the press that Joshua's had since he's lost against Ruiz has been untrue. I think that first Ruiz loss was just a freak, and
I agree.
And Ruiz is no mug. Like, I know the size, of him, and his weight.
I think he's world class. Ruiz, I've always says that people were talking to us about when that first fight got announced. No, Ruiz. I says, all I believe he'd win. I says, Ruiz need bum, I says, like, looks might deceive you, but he's a top fighter. And I want to mention as well,
fights, and Ruiz, his style was all wrong for Joshua. Even in the rematch, it showed. Like, he's a type of fighter that you just have to beat and move on.
I think AJ struggles with the shorter fighters, because he had some problems against Povetkin as well. He had that, but I think he thrives off more fighting people that's taller than him, like Klitschko was taller than him, and obviously Fury standing at 6'9". And obviously, I want to mention Fury has some fought since Wilder, and that'd be nearly about 18 months or something when this fight happens. 18 months out of the ring.
Can we ever underestimate Tyson Fury?
I don't think you can.
And what's so great about the fight is either man has got, Fury loses. He's already proven. He went to Klitschko's backyard, beat him. Everyone knows the Tyson Fury story. The story is already so amazing, so beautiful, and the fact he's already won. Fury going into that. Joshua has more to lose, I think, going into the fight, because he's got more to prove. I don't think Fury's got anything. But if Joshua does lose, he's lost to the man, in my opinion, the greatest British heavyweight.
If Fury beats AJ in this fight, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't take that second fight.
That's what I was literally about to say, mate. Like,
what's left for him to prove?
Exactly. And that's why either fighter has got nothing to lose. Fury, in my opinion, Fury takes the fight inside 5 rounds, as I said. But after that, I do not think he will take the rematch. And if he doesn't take that,
he retires.
Obviously, retires. Yeah, and Rules will.
If he retires at what's his record, like 30 something? He's obviously got that draft. He retires undefeated, undisputed heavyweight world champion. Honestly, I'm not. It's a big statement, but I'd obviously see him as the greatest fight, not just heavyweight fighter of all time. You've got to put him in that conversation, because to retire undefeated at heavyweight of all fighting, exactly. Look at the killers he's fought. He's fought Deontay Wilder, AJ. He's fought Klitschko.
Depression.
He's come through that depression, and he's been at the top, he's been at the bottom. His story is just incredible, and he's an inspiration to many other young, because obviously they had mental health, with the young kids looking up to Tyson Fury, as they do with AJ, but for very different reasons. I think Fury is more what you see is what you get. He doesn't need to show for no camera, stuff like that. No ambassador what AJ is for Under Armour. And I think that's what everyone likes about Fury, is that he's real, and you can sort of relate to him. But
there's
also
singing songs after he's beat Wilder. I honestly think though, as I say, he beats Joshua, and then after that he retires, and the belts go back to Joshua. So Joshua's not really going to lose anything. By the way, it would not surprise me if Joshua still went in there and defied all the odds, and he beat Tyson.
I think it's not. It's going to. I don't think people say it's a mismatch. I don't think it is. I think it's a close fight, and I'm stuck in two minds. Every time I'm looking, I change my opinion. So no doubt my opinion will change towards him closer the fight gets. But my mindset now, I say Fury points. I'm saying like eight rounds or four. Because Fury does, when he's fighting a decision like the old Fury like against Klitschko, he seems to take a couple of rounds off. I think Joshua will pick up rounds because Joshua gets that second gas of wind. And
He looks like Joshua has definitely learned from that Ruiz loss. We've seen that.
100%.
You've seen that against Pulev, the way but once again, he took rounds off against Pulev. He was hit easily. And by the way, fantastic performance by him.
Oh, that was the old Joshua we knew. Like, he was getting some slack about the Ruiz fight, and like, yeah, he wasn't stepping the pace no more. And that was a really good performance. Like Pulev's all right. He's a world level fighter, but I think there's only Tyson Fury that can possibly beat AJ in that division. I don't think Usyk's big enough.
No.
I don't think Dillian White, obviously, we'll get on that later. Povetkin, he's already beat him. There's Joseph Parker, the Chazoras. Obviously, Joe Joyce coming into it now. Dubois I still think Daniel Dubois. I think all in all, the heavyweight boxing's back.
I mean, I think it was back in 2017, but then it went off the boil a little bit, 2018, in terms of wanting to see Joshua Wilder. Obviously, I know 2018 was a great year. It was 2019. It went off the boil. And what actually saved heavyweight boxing in 2019 was Ruiz beating Joshua.
Definitely, I agree.
But end of the day, I just think, as a fight fan, I think it's fantastic. It's gonna be a fight. Yeah. I think in Fury's fights, I've been very nervous. I've been very nervous in Joshua fights.
Same, I agree.
And I'm going to be relaxed because I would love to see either man win. I edge towards Fury because of the story and the person. I relate more with that. And
that's what I'm saying. The real winners are the fans, especially the British public. Like I say, is about the biggest fight ever is going to be between two Brits. So either man's going to make history. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, in fact, it's going to matter a lot of money.
We're predicting Saudi for the venue, but
I think it's like Saudi.
If the date hasn't been announced, the location hasn't been.
I think they were looking at June, weren't they? Summertime.
And that's when restrictions here are supposed to be. I'm not saying it would be a risk, obviously, to do it here.
But I think that rematch will target the rematch in 2022.
It happens. Obviously, we've talked about why we don't think it might not happen. But yeah, like end of the day, it's going to be great, and I'm sure we're all going to love it, and it's going to be exciting in its uncertainty. I just still think Fury finishes Joshua.